In this lesson, we're going to add our fish detail and fade out our last piece of coral. Okay, so in between lessons, as I told you in the last lesson, I was going to come in here and fix the parallax just a little bit to look better, fill the time, and have plenty of room to get to this piece of coral and also not have too much motion blur. So I just kind of tweaked the position of things, and I felt like actually I ended up having a little bit too much coral in there, so I deleted a few of them. So it didn't need to be that long. Now what I want to do is, as he is finishing what he's saying, I want this piece of coral to fade away so that it doesn't even exist anymore. So let's figure out where that needs to happen.
Coral is different. Do you even care what the world's coral is damaged irreparably?
So right after he says irreparably,
is damaged irreparably.
and before he starts to say do, the next word. So let's go ahead and we'll hit the T key to bring up this the opacity. And let's take it backwards a bit.
Coral is damaged irreparably.
So right about here where he starts to say irreparably, we'll take that all the way down to 0.
Coral is damaged irreparably.
And let's make sure that's on the right layer. I come up a little bit. Oh, so this one is down a little bit farther in the stacking order. I just picked that one because it was at the top. So we can easily just copy those keys, hit Control-C, paste them onto the layer we want. And a quick little tip for you, if you accidentally do something like that, and you have, we have this other piece of coral that we don't see now because it doesn't start to fade on until after it's out of position. You can drag past the keyframe that has the value that you like and then just hit the stopwatch again, and it'll keep that value as the constant. And now this piece of rock formation is back and you don't have to worry about that. So that's just a little trick for you. You can use if you mess something up and you set keyframes somewhere, but you still want to use them somewhere else. So also these keyframes are backwards, so it looks like they are fading on instead of off, so we can fix that really easily. Just switch them around, just like that. Perfect. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add our fish detail. So I'm going to go over to my project panel. We'll just open that up so we can see it. And let's grab our fish graphic that was the ABI that we imported. So that's going to be that little yellow fish. And we'll bring him in here. And I actually don't want the fish to be a 3D layer. I just want him to be swimming on top of everything. And that's going to help him not to have so much motion blur. So I want him to sort of come in here right as this pretty coral is about to exit. So I'm going to start him right here, kind of at the top, and we can pull this forward so we actually don't see him beforehand. He's not going to be just sitting there swimming in place. Then he appears, and we can bring him in just like this. Now I want him to have already swam away by the time this piece of coral is about to start fading. So let's go ahead and bring up our position, and we'll set a keyframe with our position just right here and drag that back to the beginning. And then we can grab him and pull him down across the comp like this. Now let's add just a little bit of interest by grabbing those handles and having him do some fancy swimming. Perfect. So he's going to kind of come in here and zoom down across and be gone by the time that coral fades away. So that looks, really interesting, and it's really easy to do since we already have this layer. Now, because we only have 2 position keyframes, let's just go ahead and auto orient him. So we'll select it, go to layer, choose transform, down to auto orient, orient along path, and now he'll point in the right direction just a little bit better. Perfect. And I like those just being linear keyframes because we don't ever see him before or after, so we don't need to change those to easy ease. let's go ahead and just watch a quick RAM preview of everything we've made in this comp so far. So we'll just pull this forward to right about here. And I'll just hit the 0 key on my number pad to start that. I'm going to pause the recording just so you don't have to watch that cache.
Humans and our activities are actually the largest threat to the existence of coral. At the present rate of destruction, 70% of coral reefs may be gone in less than 40 years. And right now, 10% of the world's coral is damaged irreparably. Do people even care what...
Okay, so that looked pretty good. I noticed a strange little pop with the fish though. So let's go ahead and add some motion blur to him. So even though he's not using the camera's motion blur, we still will see motion blur for the fish. Okay, that's a little bit better. And also I noticed back here we could see just a little bit of the arrow earlier. So I'm going to scrub forward just to right about here, and we'll trim that layer so it doesn't begin until we need it to, just like that. Great. Okay, let's watch one more RAM preview just to make sure everything in this comp has been tweaked to perfection. Okay.
Humans and our activities are actually the largest threat to the existence of coral. At the present rate of destruction, 70% of coral reefs may be gone in less than 40 years. And right now, 10% of the world's coral is damaged irreparably. Do people even care what happens?
Okay, so perfect. I love the way that this is looking. Really, really interesting with the little fish that comes in here. It just adds a lot more dynamic feel to the piece. And the next thing we're going to do is animate in that piece of text that you heard him say at the end. Do people even care what happens? And we really don't need that part to be 3D. So let's go back out to our main coral infographic. And let's just see what this looks like here. So we do have a little bit of an issue because once this layer begins, we have that background on. So let's come back in here now that we're finished inside of this comp, and we'll just turn off the eyeball for our background, and we can turn it off for our little swatches as well. We don't need those anymore. And we still have the swatches here in our main comp, so no worries. Perfect. Okay, so now it's just moving along with what he's saying. And we already know that it lines up because of the way that we pasted that audio. And at this point where this piece ends, we can go ahead and trim the 3D camera movements comp that we built. So go ahead, select that, hit Alt and bracket, and that'll just help you to stay a little more organized. So now we're back out into our main composition, and we can start to add more things that are just going to be really more of 2D type of pieces. And for some people, that's a little bit easier to work with. So in our next lesson, we'll be adding that piece of text, so stick around and I'll show you how to do that.